Manhattan College. I am Keller. I'm a part of the design team as well as the Audis.
I'm Alina. I'm also part of the design team.
My name is Anthony. I'm part of the financial analysis team. Also part of the financial team is Xavier.
I'm Eve. I'm part of the development team.
I'm Carolina, and I'm also part of the development team.
Slide. So we chose buildings 25 and 22, which are a Draddy and Broadway parking lot. We chose these because they have a really wide and open rooftop, as well as minimal shading from other obstacles. Our goal was to shave the school's peak demand while utilizing this limited and valuable space in our urban setting. Figure 1 and Figure 2 show the rooftops of both Draddy and Broadway, and you can clearly see that they're very large. Slide. So for the Draddy design, one of the goals was to, again, reduce the peak load. Some constraints were that there are very few transformers near the Draddy gymnasium, meaning that we had a hard time getting it back to the grid, and thus chose not to. And we had limited space to create this system as well. We chose the Halene 535 watt modules due to their high efficiency and high peak rated power, as well as relatively low cost. We chose the Chint 480 string inverters as they're both very effective for large rooftop applications and have a very high efficiency. For our battery system, we chose not to include a battery because our consumption will always be larger than our produced power, and it would just not be economical to incorporate a battery system due to their significant added costs and then lowered ability to reduce peak consumption. Slide, please. For the operation, you can see in Figure 5 that we produce about 1 million kilowatt hours, and our consumption is always significantly lower than our production. Our load is about 3.6 million kilowatt hours. We added this load by connecting the Draddy gymnasium to the rest of main campus using conduit. And this allowed us to effectively use that extra energy that would have been dissipated because we couldn't connect the system to the grid. And this load is primarily non-residential, meaning that the nighttime consumption is when it's lowest, and the midday consumption is when it's highest. And this matches our production of our power production of our system, meaning that it's a very good match. This project stands out because we made effective use of the limited space we had in the city, as well as innovated new ways to get a large amount of savings by connecting this system to a larger load. Next slide, please. This is our single line diagram showing our modules and our inverters and how the whole system is interconnected. Next slide, please.
So for the Broadway parking lot, we did have a few constraints as well as goals that we wanted to achieve. A constraint of ours is the fact that since we are in an urban setting, we do have limited space available on campus to create a PV system. And a goal of ours is to reduce the load that we have. And since our energy production is higher than the energy consumed by the building, we do plan on selling the excess energy back to the grid so that Con Edison can give us some credit. The energy that is produced by the building will power the building and the EV charger stations that we do plan on implementing. So for the modules and the inverters, we chose the same ones as we did for Draddy Gymnasium. We chose the Halene 535 watt modules due to its high efficiency and high peak rated power, as well as its low cost. There's a total of 798 panels for this design. And as for the inverter, we chose the Chint CPS 480 string inverter specifically for its usage on large rooftop applications and high efficiency. There are a total of 7 inverters for this project. And finally, we decided not to use a battery system for a Broadway parking lot because when we ran the financial analysis on WeOpt, we noticed that we would only be saving about $30,000 over 25 years. So to us, it made more sense financially to sell the energy back to Con Edison and receive the credit. Next slide, please. So as for the operation, as previously mentioned, the system will power the parking lot as well as its EV chargers, and then the excess energy would be sold back to Con Ed. And a unique point in our project is that we are making effective use of our energy to incorporate EV charging. Additionally, our building faces little to no shading from other buildings, which is very uncommon in New York City. And in the diagram to your right, you can see the design that we created from Aurora Solar. And as a result, we were able to get the energy production of our PV system. The system would produce about 541,568 kilowatt hours. And the x-axis of the graph indicates the month, and the y-axis indicates the amount of energy produced. And then on the gray bar is the energy consumed by the building, with the green is the production of the PV system. As you can see, the energy production in the summer months exceed the consumption, and then in the winter months, the energy consumption is slightly higher than the production due to the lights being on in the building. Next slide, please. This is just a single line diagram, which is a very simplified version of our Broadway parking lot design, and it shows how our inverters and modules are connected to the grid. Next slide, please.
So for the Draddy gymnasium design, some of the potential risks are interconnecting Draddy with the rest of main campus, as we would need to place conduit to connect the two, and this has some added risk. We discussed with Con Ed and the facilities engineer about possible the possibility of existing infrastructure not being able to handle this new load that we're introducing. However, they've assured us that the existing infrastructure would be able to handle this. One added bonus of having this PV system is some added campus voltage regulation, as PV systems can help regulate voltage. And then in general, some new safety equipment like new circuit breakers or other regulatory equipment might be needed to be installed.
And for a Broadway parking lot, we did have a distribution risk with connecting back to the grid and sending the excess energy through it. We needed to make sure that the grid could handle that extra load. So we did discuss with some Con Ed engineers and advisors who informed us that the grid can handle it. We also confirmed that information using heat maps provided to us by Con Edison. Additionally, our PV system can help support the reactive power of needs of our grid, and we would need to install safety equipment such as new circuit breakers as well as any other regulatory equipment. Next slide, please.
All right, now getting into the financial model of the project, we use the provided Excel model and a power purchase agreement, or PPA. For our cost assumptions, we assumed that the overall cost for panels, inverters, construction, and interconnection would be about $2 per watt. This assumption was given to us by Con Edison. And using this makes our total cost about $3 million for the entire system between Broadway and Draddy. And we assumed our O&M cost to be about 10 cents per watt, or 1 cent per watt. We also had to include the cost of the EV chargers based on NYSERDA's assumption for level 2 EV charger costs. It costs about $14,000 a charger. So for 8 chargers, it costs $112,000. We assume no debt, since we were assumed to be a large developer, and a large developer would have enough financial backers that could take on the debt for them. And based on the Inflation Reduction Act from 2022, we get a 42% tax bonus under ITC. 30% of that is the base rate. We also get an extra 10% for domestic content, since our solar panels and inverters are manufactured in the US. And even though we don't qualify for the energy community, we meet enough criteria to get an extra 2% bonus under IRS Form 3468. Next slide, please. Right, now into our results. We decided on a PPA price of about 9.5 cents per kilowatt hour. We found this by getting our internal rate of return to 7.48%, as close to 7.5 as possible. This was based off NREL's 2018 assumptions for adjusted WACC for a mid-sized large-scale solar system. And we did this over 30 years, which is the estimated life of the system, which means we want our net present value to be relatively close to zero. Negative $4,000 about as close to as we could get, but based off of the size of the system, that is very close to zero. Also, we expect Manhattan College to save about $4.8 million on energy costs, as our PPA price is lower than what they're paying for Con Ed, and we also have a lower escalation rate. The savings per year from Manhattan College can be seen in figure 11 to the right. Next slide, please.
So diving into the development plan portion of the project, our overall goal was to reduce the campus's carbon footprint. This is also in line with the goals of New York State in terms of the Climate Act. The Climate Act requires that greenhouse gas emissions will be reduced by 40% from the year 2030 from the levels that were recorded in 1990. So by creating and designing a solar PV system for the campus, we're also following along with the objectives of prioritizing renewable energy sources. Zoning was also a really important part of this project because it dictates how the small amount of land we have available to use can be used to place our panels. So mentioned earlier, historical buildings within the campus were also considered off limits. So we had to make sure we're maximizing the areas that we selected. Manhattan College is located within an R4 zoning area, which means that different requirements like floor area ratio, lot area, and other factors had to be taken into consideration during the modeling process. So different technical and non-technical risks were evaluated to ensure that the construction process is successful. One of the technical risks is the installation of the equipment, and one of the non-technical risks is the profit risk that would be taken. The figure on the right also displays a map diagram of the Manhattan College campus and shows the solar panel type, the inverter type, the total number of panels that were selected for both Draddy Gymnasium and Broadway parking lot. Next slide, please.
Proposed construction schedule for the installation of our designs. As you can see, we have already gotten a head start on task 1 by getting familiar with the college's goals for shifting towards renewable energy by choosing the best locations for our PV systems and conducting a thorough financial analysis in order to make this project cost efficient. Some tests are planned to be conducted at the same time in order to minimize the construction time of the project. And task 2 and 3 professional contractors will be hired to take further responsibility of the designing and engineering of the project. During task 4, the necessary permits, materials, and financial advantages will be acquired in order to make the installation possible. During task 5, the construction itself will take place with necessary updates to any building sites performed, and the installation of the PV system materials would be placed. During task 6 and 7, the project would be concluded with the operation of the systems being tested and evaluated. So in conclusion, this entire project is supposed to take an estimated 19 months to complete, according to this construction schedule that we made based on our designs and our research. Next slide, please.
So to conclude, we chose Broadway and Draddy Gymnasium to be the best possible sites for our solar panels. Our total system size is about 1.36 megawatts, with about 900 kilowatts coming from Draddy and about 400 coming from Broadway. To make the most out of this solar production, we chose 8 level 2 EV charging stations. Our PPA was chosen at a price of 9.5 cents per kilowatt hour. The total system cost is about $3 million. And with this system, Manhattan College will save about $4.8 million over 30 years. Our proposed plan not only helps Manhattan College's goal of reducing their carbon footprint, but also helps furthers New York State's goal of lowering greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. And finally, this plan will take about 19 months to be fully installed and running. Next slide, please. Thank you for listening to our presentation. We're now open to questions.